So I am just filming a very quick intro clip here for my bookshelf tour, which is what you are about to see. I just wanted to pop in with a quick intro to explain my plans with this video and videos like it for the future. So a month or two ago I did some polls on Instagram asking how often people wanted bookshelf tours and how you prefer them to be structured. And the overall consensus, albeit by fairly narrow margins, was to have bookshelf tours twice a year, i.e. sort of in the middle of the year and at the end of the year / beginning of the year, and for me to name every book on the shelves but not pull them all out, only pull out ones that I have something to say about. So that is what I'm going to try to do with this particular video. It's very different to the last bookshelf tour that I did, where I did pull out every single book. So if you like that kind of bookshelf tour better, I will link that particular bookshelf tour up here. There are more books on my shelves now than there were then, so hopefully you'll enjoy this format. And let's get into it. Okay, so here we are at my first shelf. This is the top shelf of the Billy bookcase next to my art wall. My reading room tour is going to be in a separate video, and the majority of my TBR, my physical TBR that is standard paperback size, is here. This isn't all of my TBR, but it is a vast majority of it. And for items on this shelf, I have this pack of Finale playing cards, and just for now, this spoon that came in a Fairy Loot box because I don't know where else to put it, and this letter opener, which is shaped like Excalibur. So for books on this shelf, we have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, Stephen King's Pet Sematary, Temeraire by Naomi Novik, The Travelling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Irikawa, I think that's translated by Philip Gabriel, Summerbird Blue by Akemi Dawn Bowman, which has a very, very pretty shimmery cover, The Giver by Lois Lowry, The Light Between Worlds by Laura Weymouth, The Swan Book by Alexis Wright. This one is a dystopian that is actually written by an Indigenous Australian author, so I'm really looking forward to getting to that one, although apparently it is very dark, so I'll probably need to be in the right frame of mind to read it. You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson, American Royals by Catherine McGee, this is an advanced reader copy, The Toymakers by Robert Dinsdale, Alice in Wonderland by Simon James Green, Birthday by Meredith Russo, Into the Crooked Place by Alexandra Christo, An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir, Rose Interrupted by Patrice Lawrence, The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, Oh My Gods by Alexandra Shepherd, Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman, Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch, Touch of Power by Maria V. Schneider, The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Marino Garcia, The Black Coats by Colleen Oakes, and The Curse of Chalian by Lois McMaster Bejoled. And then I also have Children of Time, which doesn't quite fit, so I have it just in front here. This next shelf is my Fairy Loot collection, and they're actually in the order that I've received them from Fairy Loot. So as you can see, I've been subscribed to Fairy Loot for quite some time, and I'm actually starting to now run out of space on this particular shelf, so I'll be starting a new one fairly soonish. In terms of items, there's actually quite a lot on this particular shelf. So I have this Midnight Maze candle, a Legend figurine, a crown that is a keyring that is from The Cruel Prince, and then I have a collection of magnetic bookmarks and paper clips, and all of those items are from Fairy Loot, except for this little tortoise, which is actually an incense holder that I've had for so long that I don't honestly remember where it's from. In terms of the books on this shelf, we have one of my copies of Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, Fire and Heist by Sarah Beth Durst, Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye, A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer with this really pretty holographic spine, To Best the Boys by Mary Webber, Nocturna by Maya Motain, The Beholder by Anna Bright, Finale by Stephanie Garber, Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, The Wicked Fox by Kat Cho, The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen, Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin, The Beautiful by Renee Adier, A River of Royal Blood by Amanda Joy, Eight Will Fall by Sarah Harrion, The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black, Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller, Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez, Bonecryer's Moon by Catherine Purdy, Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova, and Girl Serpent Thorn by Melissa Bashadoost. And some of these were from special edition boxes, so just so you know which ones those were, they were Finale by Stephanie Garber, The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black, and Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. Otherwise, Fairy Loot only ever does standalone books or first books in series. Next we have the first of my series shelves. This is one of my favourite shelves in terms of aesthetics. This one and the one below it are pretty closely tied, I think. So in terms of items, there are a few things on this particular shelf. We have this Raven Boys headband, we have a Starlight Watchmaker key, a Shadow and Bone necklace. This is a little metal hippopotamus. I'm not sure if you can even really see that, which again I have no idea where that's from. I have my TBR jar over there, a pack of mints. I don't even eat mints. It's something I got in a Fairy Loot box and it's kind of just still there. A patch and a badge. Oh, and this really pretty coaster of a nine-tail fox, or a gumiho. So in terms of books, we have His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, Northern Lights, Subtle Knife, The Amber Spyglass, and The Book of Dust. Then we have the first two books in the Broken Earth series, so the 5th season and the Obelisk Gate. These are by N.K. Jemisin. Then we have the Warcross duology by Mary Lou, which is Warcross and Wildcard. We have A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer, which is book 2 in the Curse Breakers series. Book 1 is A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which you just saw on the preceding shelf. Then we have the Girl of Fire and Thorns series by Ray Carson, Fire and Thorns, The Crown of Embers, and The Bitter Kingdom, plus the collection of short stories. Then we have the Three Dark Crowns series, or at least most of it, by Kendara Blake. So 3 Dark Crowns, 1 Dark Throne, 2 Dark Reigns, and the collection of short stories, The Queens of Fenburn. Then we have the Illuminae Files by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, Illuminae, Gemina, and Obsidio, followed by the Queen of the Tearling trilogy by Erica Johansson, The Queen of the Tearling, The Invasion of the Tearling, and The Fate of the Tearling. Next up we have the original Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, so Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising. And then we have the first book in the Six of Crows duology, Six of Crows. This is just a notebook that I am keeping there to hold a space for Crooked Kingdom when I eventually purchase that one. Then we have the Sorrow duology by Melinda Salisbury, State of Sorrow and Song of Sorrow. And then we have the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard, Red Queen, Glass Sword, and Warstorm. The third book is King's Cage, and that is on my TBR cart at the moment, so you'll see that in a little while. Over here we have the Paper and Heart Society books by Lucy Powery. So book 1 is the Paper and Heart Society and book 2 is Read with Pride. You can actually read these in any order, but I recommend reading them in publication order. And then we have The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. These are the first 2 books in the Kingkiller Chronicles, and supposedly the 3rd book was supposed to be coming out this year, but I doubt if it now will. Then we have the Arc of the Scythe series by Neil Schusterman. So Scythe, Thunderhead, The Toll. And then we have the first 2 books in the Caraval trilogy by Stephanie Garber, Caraval and Legendary. The final book, Finale, you saw on the previous shelf. This next shelf also houses some of my series, and as you can see it's a little bit more cluttered in terms of accessories here. We have these 2 cuddly toys. One is of a giraffe. This was a joke gift from a friend when I left a job a few years ago because I'm really tall and she always called me Baby G for baby giraffe, so she bought me a little giraffe toy when I left, and this is just a really cute zebra that I have, so I'm going to move those out of the way so you can see the books that are behind them. Then I also have this Princess of Dissy candle, what are these called? Bookend? But I don't use it at the end, I use it for display because I think it looks really, really pretty. And I also have on there a Hermione Granger magnet. This is a figurine that I think my grandma bought me back from New Zealand, I want to say. I have a coaster here with a bat on it. I have a Thomas Creswell candle. I have a decoration. Up here is also a book lover keyring. I have a bottle of, or a mini bottle of champagne that says "Drink Me" on it as a nod to Alice in Wonderland. I have a little figurine here made of porcelain that my boyfriend brought me back from Amsterdam quite a few years ago now, and then a snow globe along a similar vein that he brought back from Amsterdam for me a few years after that. He used to go to Amsterdam every year for a work conference. He doesn't anymore because he changed job. Okay, so books wise we have the Villains duology by Victoria Schwab. In fact this first section is all Victoria Schwab. So Vicious and Vengeful. Then we have A Darker Shade of Magic, A Gathering of Shadows and A Conjuring of Light. And then behind this bookend, which I'm not going to pull out because it's a bit of a pain, I have City of Bones and Bridge of Souls. And then just at the bottom here I have the Archives duology, which is the Archived and the Unbound. I'm calling it a duology. It was originally meant to be a trilogy, but book 3 has never been published and probably never will be because of issues with the rights that Schwab experienced while she was trying to get the series published. And to be honest, I was really worried about that for a long time, but I did go ahead and read the second book a couple of months ago, and there's only one thing that really suggests that there would ever be another book in that series. So if you forget about that one thing, it's pretty conclusive on its own. So I say go ahead and read that duology and think of it as a duology because I really enjoyed it. And then we have the first 2 books in the Ash Princess series by Laura Sebastian, so Ash Princess and Lady Smoke. I do want to read book 3, but I'm on a book buying ban as I'm filming this, so I haven't bought that one yet. The Cruel Prince and the Wicked King by Holly Black. As you saw earlier, I have the Fairy Loot Special Edition version of the Queen of Nothing, so I have actually ordered the special edition versions of the Cruel Prince and the Wicked King, and once I have those I will probably give these copies to my sister. Then we have the first 2 books in the Rosewood Chronicles by Connie Glynn, Undercover Princess and Princess in Practice. The 3rd book you will see in a minute. Then we have first 2 books in the Isles of Storm and Sorrow series by Bex Hogan, Viper and Venom. Those are the only 2 books that are out so far, but I think that this is going to be a trilogy. Then we move into my Lauren James collection. So first we have her duology, The Next Together and The Last Beginning. These are science fiction, historical fiction, romance mashups, and I absolutely love them. The Quiet at the End of the World by Lauren James is also sci-fi. She mostly does sci-fi, but with some romance and fantastic twists, so if you like that, Lauren James is an author to pick up. The Starlight Watchmaker and The Loneliest Girl in the Universe, and these are, I think, all of the books that she has published right now, and I also have her next book, The Reckless Afterlife of Harriet Stoker, on pre-order, and that one is actually going to be a paranormal fantasy story about ghosts, which is one of my favourites, so I'm really excited for that. And I absolutely love Lauren James, and I like to shout her out because she's a bit of a smaller author that doesn't get a lot of hype here on BookTube, and I think she really deserves it. I love her stuff. It's all YA, by the way. Then we have some of my, well, all of my Alice Oseman collection thus far, although I have Loveless on pre-order, and that should actually be arriving today. So Radio Silence, Solitaire, I Was Born for This, and then all 3 volumes that are currently out of Heartstopper. And then finally we have the first 3 books in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight and Heir of Fire. Okay, for this next shelf I've had to angle the camera downwards a little bit because my tripod doesn't go low enough to be able to reach this shelf properly. In terms of items, I don't have too many down here because the cats can crawl all over this shelf, and they do, so I only have slightly bigger items. So I have a Starfall candle here, I have I think this is a Raven Boys patch. It says I am the Reaper and death is my shadow. I haven't read the Raven Boys yet, so I don't know. I have a coaster with a dagger on it. I have a Minnie Mouse keyring, and then I have this pin banner with just badges on it. That's not where I keep my enamel pins in my bedroom so that I will remember to wear them. And all of these books are paperbacks that I have read. So first of all we have my Christina Lauren collection. So we have The Unhoneymooners, My Favourite Half Night Stand, Autobiography, Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, and Roomies. Then we have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is one of my all-time favourite books. It is fantastic. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It is sci-fi, but very light on the sci-fi elements, and it's mostly about found family and friendship, and it's very queer and I love it. Then we have, this shouldn't be here, this is middle grade, okay. So I keep my middle grade separately, but this one you will see again in a minute because I'm going to put it on the shelf it actually belongs on, which is where all my middle grades live. So there's now a gap here that I need to fill, but it's okay, I have a book that can go there that I've read and that is still on my TBR cart, which you will see in a minute. So moving on, Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa, The Last Bus to Everland by Sophie Cameron, More Than We Can Tell by Bridget Kemmerer, The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North, The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, Jelly by Claire Rees, which has a really nice cover. I really love the jellyfish on here. It's a great book, but it is very strange. It's about people trapped on the back of a giant jellyfish. So yeah. The Twisted Tree by Rachel Burge, Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nguyen, Frankly in Love by David Yoon. This is an advanced reader copy, so the final spine doesn't look like that, and the final cover doesn't look like this, but I actually quite like this ARC version, so I'm really glad to have it. The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg is another really super pretty cover. Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch, Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, The Raven Tower by Anne Leckie, A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martin, Save the Date by Morgan Matson, Starfish by Akemi Dawn Bowman, another gorgeous cover. I don't know how much Akemi has to do with the covers of her books, but they are super pretty, and she just announced a new book that I can't remember the name of, but the cover of that is gorgeous too. Across the Universe by Beth Revis, To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sains, In Real Life by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang, The Stormcrow, which is also an advanced reader copy by Kaylin Josephson, and Mirage by Samaya Dowd. And that is it for this particular bookcase. The bottom shelf is currently full of crap, so I will sort that out at some point. Okay, so moving on to my TBR cart. You might be wondering why the lighting is different. I've had to refilm this the next day because the audio came out really funny on the first recording, but this is the top shelf of my TBR cart, and this shelf houses my TBR. So this is the pile of books that I would ideally like to read next. So here we have Rebirth by Christopher Russell, which is book 1 in the Divinity's Twilight series, The Lost Princess by Connie Glynn, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, Cursed, an anthology by various authors, What She Found in the Woods by Josephine Angelini, and Loveless by Alice Oseman, which did actually arrive in the post yesterday after I filmed the initial video, so I've added it straight onto here for you. And along with that, I also keep my Read Me jar of bookmarks and a couple of my packs of tarot. So this is my Shadowscapes tarot deck, and this is my Moonology Oracle deck. And I also keep a little pad of paper here for any to-do listing I need to do, and there's also a weekly planner tucked in behind there as well. Moving down to the second shelf, there's not an awful lot on here at the moment because this is where I keep the books that I have read so far in the month, and although I have read more than this, I'm actually currently working on a reading challenge video which I have finished the majority of the books for, so I've taken those off to be sneaky and keep that a secret from you for now. This is the only book I can show you that I've finished so far this month, which is Slay by Brittany Morris, which was fantastic. I'll also give you a sneak peek at my current read, so there you go. And the only other thing on this shelf at the moment is my Mystic Mondays tarot deck. You'll have to let me know if you have any interest in me showing you a tarot deck collection or a collection of any of my other bits and pieces, because as you'll see down on this bottom shelf I have all of my book sleeves, my 3 secret volumes of books. The first volume has my Fairy Loot tarot cards in, the second has sticky notes and tabs for annotating books, not that I really do that, but just in case I want to, and then the third one has all of my washi tapes in it, and then I just have my reading journal here, a notepad that I use for readathons, and then just my pencil case with all my pens in it. And that's it for my TBR cart. Okay, we are now over by my shelves that are by the doorway to my reading room, and it's always really difficult to light this particular area because there are no lights anywhere nearby, and the nearest plug socket is not as good as I would like. So this particular narrow bookshelf is not particularly well lit, so I'm really sorry about that. But the first shelf all the way along is hardbacks, so this is where we're going to start, and I am going to go that way rather than do this bookcase and then do the next one. So over here we have 1,000 Beginnings and Endings, which is an anthology by various authors. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, We Set the Dark on Fire by Taylor K. Mejia, The Mermaid, the Witch and the Sea by Maggie Takuda Hall, Elysium Girls by Kate Pentecost, and The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. Okay, moving on to this shelf, we have just a couple of items on here. So we have a Strange the Dreamer bookmark, which I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it says, I turned my nightmares into fireflies and caught them in a jar, by Lanny Taylor. So that just sits there with my Strange the Dreamer duology, which I will get to in a moment. And then I have this pop socket that says, You're not my type, Faye are my type. And I don't use pop sockets, so I just got that stood there. And then for the books on this shelf, we have Muse of Nightmares and Strange the Dreamer by Lanny Taylor, The Binding by Bridget Collins, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rees, Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, The Deathless Girls by Kieran Millward Hargrave, which I would take out and show you because it's absolutely beautiful, but these are packed in pretty tight. The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, Romanov by Nadine Brands, House of Earth and Blood, Book 1 in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, The Empire of Dreams by Ray Carson, which is actually a continuation of the Girl of Fire and Thorns series that I showed you earlier, Ninth House by Lee Bardugo, Hungry Hearts, which is an anthology, so by various authors, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, The Queen of Blood by Sarah Beth Durst, This Time Will Be Different by Misa Suguera, A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow, which is actually a lot shorter than I expected it to be, The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant, Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks, and then a collection of bedtime stories for stressed out adults, which is also an anthology of sorts. This next shelf here doesn't have much on it yet. We've only got The Lost Queen by Signe Pike and A Heart of Jerks by Gabrielle Harbury. This is going to be a shelf for differently sized paperbacks. I just don't have enough to fill it yet, which is good because you always need space on your bookshelves for, guess what, more books. This next shelf is unsurprisingly one of my favourites because this is my Brandon Sanderson collection, which does have a shelf all of its own, which makes me very, very happy. Starting off with items, I have this really lovely metal Mistborn inspired bookmark, which you probably won't be able to tell, but it says, Let them see my weakness and let them see me overcome it, written on it. And then we have this, If it's not Baroque, don't fix it, trinket tray. And then I have some moon and star paper clips here, and then just up here on top I have a Infernal Devices mug, but I just like the way it looks up here, and this houses all of my signed bookmarks that I collected at Yelk last year. And then for books, we have volumes 1 and 2 of White Sand. We have the Mistborn trilogy box set, which I have facing the other way because I just like the way that this looks better than all of the spines, but the books are The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension and The Hero of Ages. And then we have Era 2 of Mistborn here, so The Alloy of Law, Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning. Then we have one that I haven't actually read yet, which is Steelheart, which is book 1 in the Reckoners series. Arcanum Unbounded is a collection of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere short stories, of which I have read some, but not all. Elantris and Warbreaker. Then we have the Stormlight Archive, so The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance and Oathbringer. Super excited for book 4, Rhythm of War, to come out later this year. I have it on pre-order as a UK hardcover, so it's not going to match these, but that's okay. And then I have my other copy of Skyward, and then just behind it Starsight. I have these facing out just because I have the space for them and I really like the way these look. And I also have some magnetic bookmarks attached to this copy of Skyward. So we have M-Bot, Doomslug and Spencer. Okay, the lighting is getting even worse, so I'm really sorry about this. But next we have some more paperbacks. These are all paperbacks that I have read. So we have Dry by Neil Shusterman, The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert, Sea Witch by Sarah Henning, Mort by Terry Pratchett, Dracula by Bram Stoker, Love Boat Taipei by Abigail Hingwen, The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds, Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett, Pet by Akweke Emeze, which has a really stunning cover, Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palpretto, and then I have a audiobook version of The Afterlife of Holly Chase just tucked in at the end there. Now we have some more series and box sets on this shelf. So first we have the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare, which is Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess, joined by the only item on this particular shelf, which is a replica of the Mortal Cup, which was produced by Fairy Loot. Mine is a little bit damaged, but they are actually sending me a replacement, which is really lovely of them. And then we have my Chronicles of Ixia series, which is split into 3 trilogies. So books 1, 2 and 3 are Study Series Part 1. Books 4, 5 and 6 are the Glass trilogy, and 7, 8 and 9 are the Study Series Part 2. So we have Poison Study, Magic Study and Fire Study, Storm Glass, Sea Glass and Spy Glass, and then Shadow Study, Night Study and Dawn Study. And that is one of my favourite series of all time. Then we have the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas, so A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury and A Court of Wings and Ruin. And then finally for this shelf we have just a few of the books from the Black Dagger Brotherhood series by J.R. Ward. So we have Lover Awakened, which is book 3 in the series and my favourite book in the series, and then we have 3 books that I haven't yet read. Sorry if that's a bit confusing. I think these are books like 11, 12 and 13 or something like that. So we have The Shadows, The Beast and The Chosen, and then we have volumes 1 and 2 of Monstrous by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. Okay, as promised, we now have my middle grade shelf. So for decoration on here we just have a collection of bookmarks, which I usually spread out like so. I was just dusting a little bit before so that these are presentable for you. And the other item I have on this shelf is a Reading Tea Leaves little cup. That one is Harry Potter inspired, but it is from an independent retailer, so I'm not gonna hide it away and not display it. So on this shelf we have a collection of middle grade books. The first 2 here are by Katie O'Neill, and they are illustrated and written by Katie O'Neill, and they are the Tea Dragon Society and the Tea Dragon Festival. We also then have Solway by Lupita Nyong'o, illustrated by Vashti Harrison. As you can tell, I really love children's graphic novels or picture books. I find them really comforting to read. And then I also have a copy of How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Getting into the more standard novels now, we have Furthermore by Tara Murphy, The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. Then we have Nevermore, The Tales of Morrigan Crow, and Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. Those are books 1 and 2 in the Nevermore series. Then we have The Wizards of Once and The Wizards of Once Twice Magic by Cresta Cowell, which are the first 2 books in the Wizards of Once series. A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison, The House with Chicken Legs by Sophie Anderson, The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. Then just here we have another item that is the Tea Dragon Society card game, because I just couldn't resist. It's got the same art as graphic novels, and it's just so cute that I had to have it. And then we have the Keeper of the Lost Cities series by Shannon Messenger. So book 1 is the Keeper of the Lost Cities, and then it's Exile, Everblaze, Neverseen, Lodestar, Nightfall, Flashback and Legacy. And as you can see, these final books get pretty chunky, which makes my chunky book loving heart very, very excited. I've only read the first 4 because I'm trying to give myself as much time with this series as possible before I have to await the next instalment. I think book 8.5 is out later this year, and then book 9 isn't out until next year, and that wait is going to be hard. So I'm trying to leave as much space in between books as I can, but it's difficult. Okay, we're angling down again now, I'm afraid, but this is now onto my manga shelf, which used to be higher up, but I've moved it down here because I wanted to try and keep my hardbacks all in the same place, and so I'm leaving myself space for that. Here we have volumes 1 and 2 of Monster by Naoki Urasawa. We have volume 1 and 2 of Maid Sama by Hiro Fujiwara. Volumes 3 and 4 you saw earlier are currently on my TBR shelf, which is why there's a gap just here, and also why all of these are leaning that way, because usually that copy of Maid Sama holds all of this up, but we move on. Then we have complete collections 1 and 2 and Future of Orange by Ichigo Takano. Then we have I Hear the Sunspot by Yuki Firmino, and Flying Witch volumes 1 and 2 by Chihiro Ishizuka. Death Note volume 1 by Tsukumi Oba and Takeshi Obata. And then Full Metal Alchemist bind-ups of volumes 1, 2 and 3 and 4, 5 and 6 by Hiromu Arakawa. Then we have W. Juliet volume 1 by Emura. Land of the Lustrous volume 1 by Hiromu Ichikawa. And Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind volume 1 by Hayao Miyazaki. In terms of items on this particular shelves, we have various, I think these are called kabuki dolls, but the name is escaping me, so I might be making that up, and then some magnetic bookmarks that are inspired by Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, which I do want to read but I don't yet have a copy of. And then we are finally to the final shelf on my bookshelf, and there are some series on here, but mostly the reason that these are all together is because these are all of those randomly sized paperbacks. So some of them are US sized and some of them are mass market paperback size, and they just don't really fit anywhere else that I like that is aesthetically pleasing, so this is where they all live. In terms of items on this shelf, I have a set of Witch playing cards just here. I have a wooden bookmark. I have a pocket mirror that says my bookshelf brings all the boys to the yard. I mean, that's not true at all, but it is funny. And a Will and Gem candle that is from Fairy Loot. And then books wise, we have Foundryside and Shorefall by Robert Jackson Bennett, The City of Dreaming Books by Walter Moers, Ash by Melinda Lowe, The Demon King, the first book in the Seven Realms series by Cinda Williams-Chimer. Raw by Cora Cormack, which is the first book in a trilogy that I don't know the name of. Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring-Blake, which is an incredibly powerful, hard-hitting contemporary story that I highly recommend. Just check the trigger warnings before you do. And then The Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson, so The Kiss of Deception, The Heart of Betrayal and The Beauty of Darkness. moving this out of the way for you, I have the first 2 books in a series by K. Arsenault Rivera. I don't know if this trilogy has a specific name. Book 1 is The Tiger's Daughter and book 2 is The Phoenix Empress. Then I have this box set of books by Ayn Rand, which are a little bit different for me. They are slightly on the older side and they are literary fiction. So we have Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead. Then we have the first book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series by Stephen Erickson, Gardens of the Moon. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. We have the Queen's Thief series, or the first 3 books in the Queen's Thief series by Megan Wallen-Turner. So The Thief, The Queen of Atolia and The King of Atolia. We have my paperback copy of Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks. And this is the same as the other one, but paperback, and this is book 1 in the Dark Shores series. We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand, another one of my all-time favourites. I only read it for the first time last year, but I absolutely loved it and I can't wait for Christmas so that I can read it again. The Long Walk by Stephen King, writing as Richard Bachman. An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. And an ARC copy of Wicked As You Wish by Rin Chupeco. And that is it. Those are all of the books on my bookshelves. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video and this slightly newer format and you got an understanding of how I organise my books. Do let me know how you organise yours too, because I'm always really interested in how different people go about it. But that is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks! Bye!